Hello, my beautiful community of partners of commercial fishermen, supporters of all of you who come every week to share this space with us so we can talk all about the incredible, unique lifestyle that encompasses commercial fishing. It can go on and on. There are sea shanties written about this lifestyle that date back hundreds of years. We've been here since the dawn of the economic civilization. Partners of commercial fishermen. Okay, we represent, now we're bringing it into our modern lives and making it into our own, and we are crushing it. I know sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Sometimes it feels like things are crushing around us, but guess what? That is just forcing us to find clarity, to figure out ways to keep doing what we're doing, find new ways to do what we love to do, because there is no no for us, okay? There's this theory of saying that there's a front door, there's a back door, and then there's the third door. The front door is everybody's waiting in line. It's a super long line. Everybody's waiting to get their ID checked. They're coming in. There's the back door that people know, that know people that just come on in, no big deal. They can leave in and out as much as they want. Then there's the third door, the one that we operate with, is that we create our own access points. We create our own initiatives, our own ideas, and our own ways of creating a thriving life for ourselves, whether that's personally, whether that's in our fisheries, in our relationships, the list goes on and on. And I want to stop and say, if you're new here, welcome to the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. I'm so thrilled that you decided to stop on by, hang out with us this week, and hopefully more weeks to come. We're here every week talking about this awesome lifestyle, as I just mentioned. And, one of the main topics, in addition to relationships, safety, family, fisheries, advocacy, mental health, addiction, the list goes on and on. One of the main topics that we always talk about is funding, income, financial management. Mainly, how do we find funding? And we've talked about it a lot on this podcast. There's many episodes where we talk with financial experts and ways to find funding, but there's also that elusive grant conversation. I know we talked about grants early on with POCF Bree Dwyer. She's one of I feel like she was the third or fourth episode if you want to scroll back to that. But this next episode is also super, super, super informative. And it's with one of my favorite new friends, Ava Schulenberg. She is incredible. We had her on the podcast a few weeks ago where she talked about advocacy. She went into detail about how to properly prepare to make sure that your public comments are heard, how to make sure that you have the right information. And she was so candid about it. She is so incredibly smart and just super humble. And also, if you see her on Zoom or if you know her, she's freaking gorgeous. And it just adds to the whole package. She's just an incredible person. And we went on and on about advocacy. It was great. And then at one point during the conversation, we switched to grants and how she was able to get funding for the organizations she worked with. And I thought, oh man, this is such a great episode that this needs to stand on its own. So I cut that episode short. Now you're getting the second half with Ava Schulenberg. And let me just give you a laundry list of the incredible work that she does. Here's a quick list of the many hats she wears. She is the executive director of the California Lobster and Trap Fishermen's Association, the assistant director of the Commercial Fishermen of Santa Barbara, known as CFSB, the manager of the Saturday Fishermen's Market of Santa Barbara. She's a laboratory assistant at California Sea Grant. She's a deckhand with a variety of boats. And just because, she might have some extra time here and there, she's a stewardess with the yachting company Santa Barbara Captains, known as SB Captains. She is a force to be reckoned with in the most gentle, beautiful, inside and out, intelligent way possible. And when I grow up, I'd love to emulate Ava Schulenberg. She's one of my favorite people now. I've literally just met her via Zoom on our last conversation, and it was instant. It's one of, when you meet people that are just so genuine to the core and have such a shining bright light that their lights shine on you, and it doesn't make you feel intimidated. It makes you feel, oh, I want to be near this person. I want to learn from this person. And she is one of those people. And so I am so honored to invite and to have Ava Schulenberg back on the podcast, where she goes into grants, writing grants, how she learned to write grants, and ways that she was able to use that money to help better her fishing community. Ava, you're the bomb. Can't wait for y'all to hear this. Let's dive in. I'm Megan Waldrop, host of the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. an extension of an online community for partners to connect and feel less alone. Our podcast invites fishermen, family, friends, and supporters of the industry to learn, laugh, vent, and hear stories about this incredibly unique way of life. What do you say? Let's dive in.
But something else that I'm working on a lot is this cleanup initiative. So for the Lobster Association, I got this grant last year to do this cleanup initiative throughout the state, and it's called the California Coastal Cleanup Initiative. And we got a decent chunk of funding to execute cleanups all up and down the coast, which is really exciting. And Chris, your husband, has participated in some of those cleanups and has been so helpful. I mean, it's really amazing to see the guys that come together and participate because we haven't been paid typically. We've been paid sporadically through other random grants, but this year's we'll have our own dedicated source of funding for our association to fund fishermen specifically, which is really great. It's not like we have to deal with other NGOs or environmental groups to be at the mercy of their funding, which we never really do anyways. We rarely do that. We usually just do it volunteer based. But it'll be nice to incentivize more guys to participate. And our lobster fleet goes all the way down to San Diego. So I've gotten to know a lot of those guys from here, LA, Orange County, San Diego. And as we go throughout this planning process, it's been really cool to connect with them more and understand more about their version of this fishery. It's the same species, but it's a different gear type. They're different boats. They use different bait setups. I mean, everything is different, even though we're all targeting the same thing. So it's been really fascinating for me to learn about that. And I've been really trying to just like immerse myself in that world as much as possible as we go throughout this planning stage of the cleanup initiative, because I feel like the better I know these guys and the more acquainted I am and familiarized with their worlds, the better we'll be able to all work together in the context of a big project like this cleanup initiative. It requires a lot of work, and in order for us to work well together, I think those friendships need to be nurtured. So I'm focusing on a lot of crazy things right now, but those two things are my two top priorities. In addition to aquaculture, we had this aquaculture opportunity area map released recently by NOAA, and we're trying to stop any finfish aquaculture from happening in our channel. That's also a crazy topic. That's also time consuming right now, but all of these things are so important. And I don't know if I've touched upon this already, but like the stress of this job for me doesn't come from the work itself. It comes from capacity. It doesn't like when I was working in tech, it was capacity and the work. Like I was working so hard for something I didn't care about. I will work super hard for something I care about. I love all of these topics that I get to advocate for, and I care about this industry so much. But yeah, it's just a capacity thing. I mean, the work itself, I think, is really important. And I wish that I could just extend myself more fully to every topic. I mentioned three things just now, but there's probably 16, 17 different things that are going on, in the foreground. So you can ask me tomorrow and we'll see what the different answer is. But for today, that's what the answer is.
That's
So,
amazing. I have a couple questions on that. So, you guys got funding, and from my understanding, you're able to pay fishermen whenever they come up and help with the cleanup, or if they're using their boats to go out there, you help, they get paid, they can pay for their fuel and stuff like that. And so, question about that. Do you write the grants? Who's writing these grants? And are they grants that you're able to apply for every year? Are they the same type of grant? Is there a lot of competition? How does that whole thing work?
great question. And I can't believe I didn't bring up grants until now. I guess I try and block them out because they are not my favorite thing. I don't like the feeling of like it feels like it's not begging for money, but just the concept of anything in that neighborhood to me, I don't like. I don't like it in my personal life. I'm not a salesperson. It's just it feels unnatural for me. So I have to sort of shift gears and like put this different hat on. I was lucky enough to be selected for this grant writing training program last year that's called Writing for Green. And they're based on the East Coast, actually. So you might know some of their operators, but it's this training course for the commercial fishing industry. That was my cohort. And I got to meet people. It was all remote. I got to meet people, though, from Alaska and other parts of the state of California and then Washington, Oregon, the Gulf. It was really cool. And it was an accelerated 8-week grant writing training program. Anyone who is interested in learning more about grant writing, I would highly suggest that you look into that program. I think you might have to be referred, which, if that's the case, I would be happy to refer anyone from this community because I know that they take those, I think, pretty seriously. And I still talk to all the people I worked with almost weekly, if not weekly. So definitely keep that in mind. Great program. I knew nothing about grant writing. I write all the grants for the Lobster Association. I'm the only staff for the Lobster Association with the Commercial Fishermen of Santa Barbara. My boss, Elizabeth, Kim Selko. My mom's name is Elizabeth. I don't know why I said that. I think of her as a maternal figure sometimes, but she writes a lot of the grants, and I sort of just do the smaller level ones. She does the federal grants and the larger, more complicated ones. She's so brilliant. She's a PhD. She grants are her language. She loves that style of work. Like her and I have a good understanding of where our skills lie. I think that hers lies mostly in grant writing. Um, I will handle the ones that are a bit smaller, like private family foundational type of grants, or we have cable committee grants, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with those. Um, so there are cable committees throughout the state and the West Coast that are sponsored by Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all these companies that hire fishermen to lay cables down in the ocean. And as part of their mitigation funding, they offer this grant program that's funneled through a fisherman's cable committee. So those are annual, and I apply for those every year because it's not easier, but it's a more simple grant process. So I'm still new to the grant world. This grant that we got for the cleanup funding, I did not expect to get. I didn't even want to tell the guys that I wrote it because I was so nervous that if we didn't get it, obviously that would be so embarrassing. I was shocked when we were selected, not because I felt like our application lacked merit, but just because of the competition. I'm going up against all these people that have years and years and years of experience with grant writing. And for some reason, they chose us, which is fantastic. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity. It's one of those weird, like, catch-22s because, yes, of course, I wanted the funding, but now that since we got the funding, it's been, kind of crazy stressful actually planning to bring that to fruition. And because it's our first federal grant, our first big grant that we're taking on, of course, I want to set this precedent of us executing really beautifully and with like the utmost organization and compliance. So that's just kind of that's its own little beast of itself. But yeah, to answer your question, I write the grants solely for our Lobster Association, and then I write some smaller ones and help with other random pieces of grants for CFSB. But I'm still very new to it. There's a lot to learn, and grant writing is super nuanced. It's like nothing I've ever been trained in before. So I'm really thankful for that course that I had that definitely helped get me immersed in the world a little bit more. It's a crazy world.
Yeah. No, thank you for that resource, Writing for Green, the grant writing training program. That's so great. So I know you have to get off. I want to ask this question though about the grants because now we're on it. So what does it look like? So you get this chunk of money, and does it just appear in your bank one day? Is it a check? Then what do you do? Do you hire a financial advisor? Is it, are you talking to your accountant right away? Do you get a lawyer? What is the process of getting this giant chunk of money? What do you do next?
Great question. It depends on the grant. Some grants are a reimbursement structure, some are a lump sum structure. Well, they'll give it to you all up front. Um, it just depends. Like I've seen the upfront funding occur with private family foundations and with smaller committees. With this federal grant, we received about $105,000. My mind is still blown that we were selected. So like this is all still fresh, fresh surprise that we got it, and I'm so happy that we did. But it's a reimbursement structure for this grant. It's funded through the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, and it's a sub-awardee structure. So a lot of the times NOAA or any branch of the federal government can allocate funds to a university or an agency or an organization, and then that entity will offer the grant application, and then a sub awardee is awarded the funding. That was the structure in this case. So in this case, NOAA awarded the Virginia Institute of Marine Science the funding. Then they hosted the application process and the vetting, and then they selected their sub awardees. So it's like this trickle down effect. I have to submit all of our expenses and budgeting and accounting. I believe it's monthly. I need to double check on that. But it's a reimbursement policy. It's not upfront, which is unfortunate, but it's like better than nothing, like we'll take it. And I'm grateful that it's happening in any way, shape, or form. So, you know,
Yeah.
out. And then in terms of, I've never had to involve a lawyer or any type of consultant for like accounting advice. I probably should. Probably will do that as time goes on, I guess, if we are able to secure more complex federal type of grants. With CFSB, we have a bookkeeper. We don't have a bookkeeper for CLTFA, which is the Lobster Association, and I'm so sorry because the acronyms are obnoxiously similar and confusing. But with CFSB, we have a bookkeeper and he handles like all the accounting with the grants, which is great. With CLTFA, it's me and my YouTube baseline accounting knowledge, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and I will plug this. I've been looking into the Harvard Kennedy School online free resources. They offer a lot of nonprofit coaching for financial planning, which I was not aware of until recently. And I think that it's a really great resource to tap into. I'm going to try and do one of their courses, and it's self-paced in the next couple months. And I think that that's a really valuable resource that maybe people just don't know about. I found out about it on LinkedIn. So, things like that can help um, motivate you to take advantage of these learning opportunities because they're free, I think is a really great thing to tap into. And at least for me in the context of grants, because everything needs to be so organized and compliant. There's no room for anything to go out of bounds. I want to be as trained as I possibly can. And without more experience, all I can do is learn in other ways. So I'm trying to just do that as much as possible. I haven't had to do any accounting that involves a lawyer or a consultant or anything like that yet, though.
Yeah.
So ask in like a couple years, I guess we'll circle back.
That's so helpful. This is so great. Thank you for all these resources. And so when you say reimbursement, does that mean you report your expenses at the end of the month and then at the end of the month you get reimbursed, or is it every, few months? Like how often are you getting reimbursed?
I'm almost positive it's monthly. And
Okay.
and we just submit everything, and then we receive the funding direct deposited into our account. And then from there, the Lobster Association, and this is for the example of the cleanup grant, the association will cut checks to the fishermen directly. So, and I can send you all this stuff too. Like our budget, I wanted to allocate the most funding to fishermen who are participating, of course, because I felt like that was the most important piece of this project. And from what I've learned after the fact, people were really surprised by that and thought that that might be wrong. I didn't really consult with that many people before submitting it, which is again why I was surprised that we got it. But I guess that I think that that worked in our favor because I think
Yeah.
those that were considering it realized that we're really serious about the fishermen being involved. And when you allocate the most funding for the fishermen to be involved, I think they were able to see that our intention was to just clean up after ourselves, but also enable those who can't afford to do this without funding to be able to participate. Because there are some guys that just like, they have young babies and they're so busy and they're working so hard and there are extenuating circumstances. They can't take a day or 2 days to go do a cleanup without funding. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So um, we're trying to just incentivize as much as we can by budgeting the most for fishermen. But yeah, basically the structure will be they reimburse us, it goes into our checking account, and then we write the checks to the fishermen, and then we keep all the accounting of that retroactively, of course, as well. So it's not like super streamlined, but again, we'll make it work. It'll be worth it.
Yeah. And then do you have to spend that amount of money in a certain time, or you just, you just keep giving back your expenses until it's all gone?
Some grants allow that without bounds, time bounds. This one has to be spent by the end of 2025, which is, I don't think that's going to be difficult to do at all. Like on average, the amount of cleanups that we do every year, I don't foresee that as an issue. I could be totally naive and wrong, and that could totally shift, but one way or the other, those funds have to be spent before the end of the year. So if it comes down to it at the end of December and we still have all this funding, like you will see me and a bunch of people on the beach cleaning random stuff up just to make sure that we're compliant. Because we don't want to see any of that money go to waste because it's so generous that they awarded it to us in the first place. So
Yeah. That's
it
great.
just
And then the
depends.
other, yeah, no, totally. That makes sense. And if you're open to share, no pressure. So the other funds that you say, you're like, we're paying the fishermen, and then we pay like a management fee for our organization. So you guys have money to continue with doing all the good stuff that you're doing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. So there's and not all organizations do this, but there's an admin fee that typically is included with your budget. Um, I don't even think I included one in ours because I'm the only like I am the admin. We don't have like a team of people, so it's a little less complicated. But normally it's about 10%, something in the range of 5 to 15%. Um, and and that's just to cover like bookkeeping expenses, accounting, auditing, things like that. So I might shift things around to actually formulate a formal admin expense into our budget, but for now it's just me.
This,
So
I love this. Thank you for sharing this because I know there's a lot of partners out there that are grant writing, and they're also trying to figure out how they can do that. And there's a partner, I believe she's in Cape Cod, and she wrote a grant. They got over $1 million to provide the fishermen with a some sort of like a video recording unit they could put under their boat to help collect scientific data. And so that was huge. I know she just had a baby, and she's like, I really, because I wanted her, I said, hey, I would love to have you on the podcast. She's like, I just had a baby last week. Do you mind if I postpone? I'm like, yes, take all the time you need. Like, please. But it just goes to show, I mean, this is, these are women that are fishermen's partners and whoever. I mean, it's like they want to apply and they can help the fisheries in these ways with advocacy and, the financial piece. It's like, how do we get money to help fund our great ideas? Oh yeah, grants. We forget grants is a great way to do that. And thank you for all those tips because I'm definitely going to put those in the show notes as well for everybody. Okay.
point that I didn't think about, obviously, like enable your partner to help with grants wherever you can, because there are a lot of grants out there that people just don't know about. And honestly, prospecting and researching takes the most time. Like the grant application itself it's a lift for sure, but finding them is the hardest part, in my opinion, because there's a lot of information out there. It can be really convoluted. There's all kinds of different agencies and organizations, and you want to make sure that you're applying to one that is coming from the right angle. You don't want to be asking for funding from an entity that actually isn't on your side. Like there's just a lot of nuanced researching that you have to sort of, you know, figure out. And I think that's something to be acknowledged because it is a lot of work. So the partners that are taking that on, like hats off because it's not even you that is the one in the industry. And like that's really admirable to be wanting to help with that. It's not an easy task. So hats off to all the
Yeah.
partners that are doing hard work.
That, yeah, that's such a great point of researching for the grant. Are you going to grants.gov? People have told me that so many times. Is that a good resource, or that just feels like a bottomless pit to me that I've gone on there and I'm like, okay, now what? Like, what am I supposed to do now? No
Grant,
clue where I'm going.
yeah. Grant can't tell you that I've ever gotten anything valuable out of grants.gov.
Okay.
Honestly, for me, I find out about the most valuable grants for our needs from LinkedIn, from colleagues that just text or email. We have like different networks of, oh, I saw this grant, this would be good for you. And those types of relationships also take time to build out. But as you build these connections in this world, it becomes really easy to notify one another of opportunities that you learn about, because you'll see something, you'll think, oh, that would be great for this person and their work, and then you just send it to them. There's so many emails and newsletters and websites that have all these information types of information, and it can be really confusing. And I will say that being in that grant writing training program was extremely helpful because, like I said, we still correspond with one another in our cohort email thread all the time, and we will send each other opportunities like, oh, I saw this one for whoever in Alaska, and I think this would be great for you. And these people, like I said, have a lot more experience. We were all students, but I was the least experienced. So they have a lot more knowledge and skill in terms of vetting grants. And so I rely upon other people's suggestions a lot, and it has never failed me. But of course, you have to find those trusted partners, and that's not always easy to find. All that to say, researching on grants.gov will be an overwhelming experience. If you do that, definitely, like, I don't know, maybe have a glass of wine while you're sitting there doing that or something, because it's like a bottomless pit, exactly like you said. And sometimes that can be really frustrating because you feel like you're just reading and reading and not getting anywhere. That's
Yeah.
the government.
Right. I know. I'm like, and this is how there's so much money out there. I'm like, yeah, but like, how do you get to it? Like, show me the money. Sorry to totally quote that, but you know it was coming. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's intense.
1000
Thank you for
percent.
this. This is like spurring a whole other convo, and I truly appreciate you going to the grant. So, okay, final question. How can people connect with you? And if there's anything that we left out, let me know if there's anything you want like the people to take away from this conversation, add it in. No
Okay.
pressure.
Yeah, no, I think that what you do and these conversations are so awesome and helpful for people. So I'm thankful that you even reached out and were interested. I am not a partner of a commercial fisherman. I have dated commercial fishermen. There's something repellent about that. It just doesn't work. It's like you need it's like two negatives. Like you can't, it doesn't work. We're still friends, but I'm not coming from the space that most of your listeners might be. So I'm grateful that you even were interested in hearing from me.
Of course.
With that said, connecting with me, I don't have an Instagram for myself. I run the commercial fishing Instagram. So you can, if you follow that account, Commercial Fishermen of Santa Barbara, the handle is at cfsb.info. That's just me. So like send me memes, send me messages, whatever you want. That's me on the other side. Um, and LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, so that's great. And you can also give my number out to people or email. I get random calls and texts all the time, and I truly love it. Like that sounds psychotic, but I actually do. It feels like, again, it feels like this time capsule of communication style that I truly enjoy. Just people used to just call each other, call random people all the time out of the blue, and it wasn't as if it was spam or it wasn't as if it was coming from a soliciting place. And I I really enjoy just meeting new people and hearing new stories. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out no matter what the medium is. Um, and yeah, like I said, I just think your work is really important. I mean, my dad was a commercial fisherman, so growing up seeing my mom as the partner, it's fascinating to think about what that must have been like for her in the context of what I've learned through your community. You know what I mean? Like it's just such a hard, I mean, she still complains to this day all the time about, and for context, my dad passed like 12 years ago,
Oh,
13 years
sorry for
ago.
your loss.
Yeah, thanks. He was amazing, and he died suddenly of a heart attack. He was super healthy. Um, anyway, my mom to this day, even though they were divorced, they were still very amicable, but she always says things like, God, like being married to a fisherman, it's so exhausting. And like their schedules change and the weather. And like she still gripes about it all the time. And it's so funny. But then she'll always like come full circle and be like, but it's a really important cause and it's really cool and whatever. Like it's just funny to hear like all those little snippets of the reality that exists when you are a partner to a commercial fisherman, because the day to day is just, it's funny, honestly, at a certain point. It's like everything is so volatile. Any day could be so different from the next. And I think that it takes a lot of resilience and strength to be a partner more so than to be a fisherman, because the worry that you have, the anxiety, I can't even imagine what that would be like. My mom, if I don't text her back or call her if I'm out on the water, within like an hour, which I'd never do because I don't have my phone, she thinks I'm dying. She will call every person in the harbor. She's called the Coast Guard before because she thinks that I have perished at sea, which, like, yes, it's a super dangerous job and like that's a valid concern. So I think it's obnoxious, but if I were in her position, like so many of your partners are or supporters are or whatever, it's a valid concern. It's a really dangerous job. So all that to say, hats off. I'm not a partner of a commercial fisherman, but I've seen it firsthand and I am part of the industry in a different way. So I'm grateful that you wanted to hear what I had to say at all.
Oh my gosh. I'm so thankful that you wanted to come on and speak today and give us so many valuable insights and just your big open heart. You're so warm. As soon as I saw you and we connected, it was like, oh, I can relax. Like we're just going to hang out and have this conversation about super serious topics.
Right.
And you've been able to communicate it in a way that is just so eloquent and so what do I want to say? Not only relatable, but achievable. Like it doesn't feel like this is going to be hard. If anybody wants to advocate for their fisheries in the way that we say that we do in our communities, it's possible. You've shown that it's possible, and just your unending passion and your love for what you do is so inspiring. But it's so nice to know that there's people out there other than the partners, other than the fishermen who truly do care for the industry and are working their asses off to make sure that our voices are heard. And so hats off to your a million hats that you wear. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. And I cannot wait to hang out in real life. I'm really stoked to come out to California and have girl time with Ava. That's going to be on my calendar as soon as we get off this interview.
Anyone join us by all means. So we'll
Yeah.
have a great gals night.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. Middle of March after spiny lobster season's over.
Right.
Thank you so freaking much for your time, Ava. I truly appreciate you. And I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Megan. And like I said, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm always happy to connect and meet new people. So, just keep that in mind.
Awesome. We will do. As you know, all of this greatness will be in the show notes. You guys can connect with Ava there. So thanks again. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To support our community, I'd so appreciate it if you'd tap the subscribe button to this podcast or write a review. And if you're a POCF who wants to connect further, go to POCFpride.com for weekly vlogs and to learn about opportunities to join our private communities. We'd love to have you.